The freshwater environment is intrinsically one of the most important that we have in the UK.
Yeah.
We tend to underestimate that, don't we? I mean, I've got to tell you that aside from a few teenage fishing fries, I've not learned a tremendous amount about the ecology of British fish. I've concentrated on the terrestrial, and that's typical of naturalists, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not as accessible as a terrestrial environment. You've got to get in there with waders and nets and hoik things out, so it's harder to get at. I think that's probably part of the problem.
But so much else is dependent upon it, and it's a great repository of life.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole food chain really sits on top of all the biodiversity in fresh waters. The macroinverts, there are so many species of macroinvertebrates, and that feeds up to the fish and the birds, and a
fundamental part of the food chain.
Absolutely so.
And
yes.
what sort of state is it in?
Both in the UK and globally, freshwaters are really in trouble. For example, a study of population sizes of aquatic organisms found that population sizes are dropping twice as fast in freshwater as they are in terrestrial and marine systems. So of all the things that are going down, amphibians are the prime example. 40% of the world's amphibian species facing the threat of extinction. It's a mass extinction event. There's no other way of looking at it.
It's not really, therefore, a very healthy situation where even here in the UK, when we do pretty intensively and well monitor things, that this field is being neglected, really.
Absolutely. I mean, we have incredible data in the UK, with the Natural History Museum, the National Biodiversity Network. We are past masters at charting decline. But what are we doing about it? We create reserves. It's not working. You cannot square the losses versus it's not working. We need to do more.
So Adrian, you've been doing some interesting techniques to really gather the data for your Bioblitz. Been electric fishing?
Yeah, we've been using several different methods today. Mainly because it's so hot, we've been trying to cause the least stress as possible for the fish. So a lot of the work we've been doing, we've been just visually observing as many fish as we can. We've got some drop-down cameras, some GoPros in the river as well, recording things. But yeah, behind me, the beeping you can hear is electric fishing. So this uses a battery-powered backpack. And it puts out an electric field into the river, which just stuns the fish in the immediate area. So it forces them to swim towards the anode, which is the probe that my colleague's got there. And then they turn over, you net them out quickly, and they recover instantaneously. But that means we can get them in a bucket and then have a look and see what species we've got and measure them. Yeah.
So tell me, what have you got in here?
Well, we've had a really exciting day actually. Not all the fish in this bucket come from the mill stream behind me. We've also looked at some of the ditch networks as well, because you get different species using different habitats here. And one good example there, if I can just get this one here, is what we have here is a tiny little pike, which would have been born this year. So these grow to about £30. They grow really big in this river. But this was caught from one of the ditches, which shows that the adults of these species are migrating into these habitats during the spring and spawning.